Welcome to Film Club. John Wick Chapter 4 is out in cinemas on the 24th of March. To prepare for the fourth film in the John Wick franchise, we are reviewing the first three films. Today, we recap and review the original John Wick, reviewing the plot, characters, entertainment value, and rating the movie overall at the end of the video, while comparing it to the other films in the action-adventure genre and Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb scores for the film. Let's get straight into it. Plot: John Wick, an ex-assassin, is grieving the loss of his wife. After she dies, she schedules a gift of a young puppy to be brought to John, giving him meaning and something to love now that she's gone. On the way to pick up some dog food, John comes across Losef Tarasov, the son of mob boss Viggo Tarasov. John rubs the arrogant mob prince the wrong way and is paid a visit by Losef and his henchmen later that night. Losef and his men ambush John in his home and murder his dog in a brutally shocking scene. John loses the last gift his wife gave him and returns to his killing past and embarks on a vengeance mission to kill Losef. While on the hunt for Losef, we discover that his father Viggo used to employ John as a hitman until John left that world behind to live a peaceful life with his wife. John stays at the Continental Hotel, which serves as neutral ground for the criminal underworld. In the Continental, John meets a hotel owner, his old friend Winston, who informs John that Losef is in the Red Circle nightclub. John enters the Red Circle nightclub, kills everyone except Losef, and retreats to the Continental after being injured in the fight. In his hotel room, John is attacked by Miss Perkins, a hit woman who has history with John. John's mentor Marcus, who was hired by Viggo to assassinate John, alerts John to Miss Perkins' presence, and John leaves her unconscious. John continues his revenge mission, causing havoc for Viggo's criminal empire. Marcus again saves John when he is captured by Viggo, and John goes on to realise his mission and kills Losef. Without discussing, without stopping, John shoots him right in the head and then just walks away. Then we cut to Marcus, John's old mentor. He gets tortured and is then killed by Viggo and Miss Perkins. And John is once again brought back into the criminal underworld due to the death of Marcus, his old mentor. John kills Viggo, avenging Marcus's death, and Winston kills Miss Perkins for breaking the Continental's rules as she tried to kill John in a hotel and murdered another guest while staying at the Continental. After his fight with Viggo, John breaks into a nearby animal clinic and adopts a new puppy. A typical revenge flick where the once expert fighter has to return back to their former life to enact their revenge. John Wick's mythology establishes a Continental hotel with its codes and rules and adds character and history to the criminal underworld that John Wick was involved in. This intriguing lore pushes the film to a much higher level than its action genre competitors, such as Liam Neeson's Taken. Plot scores 8 out of 10. Entertainment value. It only takes 15 minutes to establish a revenge plot and John Wick as a character. This quick tempo is maintained throughout the entire film. John Wick is energetically paced action as it should be, with some three-dimensional characters and a good setting. The film sometimes falls into stock elements, such as the one-note Russian bad guys, but most of the time it transcends the cliches of its genre. Keanu Reeves is the lead actor you support, even though he's murdering by the bucket loads, and a supporting cast and backstory that are all very interesting. For entertainment value, John Wick scores 8 out of 10. Characters and performances. Keanu somehow makes a brutal ex-assassin a likeable character. It's hard to imagine anyone else playing the stoic, lean hitman John Wick. Keanu's deadpan style and flat delivery works really well for the character when contrasted to his prowess at combat. John Wick was a return to the realm of good movies for Keanu, and the John Wick franchise re-established him into the A-lister film star he used to be during his Matrix days. Michael Nyqvist as Viggo is the most replaceable of the supporting cast and does have some stock action bad guy lines. You can certainly empathise with the character as he has no choice but to protect his son. At the end of the film, his decision to torture and murder William Dafoe's character Marcus is where he's evil for evil's sake, just to service the plot and tie up the character arcs really. Alfie Allen as Viggo's son Losef. Allen is fantastically terrible as the irritating, arrogant, detestable son who is living off his father's name and power. Allen offers so many little movements, lines and looks that make you dislike the character immensely. Great acting by Allen that makes you want to get ahead of John Wick so you can kill Losef yourself. Characters and performances score 8 out of 10. Visuals. John Wick was directed by Chad Stahelski, making his directorial debut after being a stuntman for most of his life, often playing Keanu's stunt double. You can see his action stunt experience realised in his direction of the film. The film action was somewhat revolutionary at the time in 2014, as it swapped quick cuts for long drawn out clever fight sequences, which takes a long time to get right and choreograph. The standout visual scene is in a Red Circle nightclub. Especially when John reaches the second level, you can hear the music pumping out and people running away from the fighting. The world feels very lived in and more expensive than the modest 20 to 30 million budget that the film had. Achieving well beyond its means, the visuals were pretty good. Visuals score 8 out of 10. Sound. The soundtrack was really diverse, with a melancholy opening 15 minutes, then a raw and aggressive action score complementing the fight scenes. The standout musical moments was again the Red Circle nightclub sequence, with the club's popping tune, The Red Circle by Lee Castlevania, as John battled Viggo's gangsters who were protecting Losef. Sound scores 7 out of 10. Ending. Now the ending fell a bit flat for me. John Wick reaching Losef's safe house and unceremoniously shooting Losef in the head, with no real final dialogue between the pair. This was an interesting subversion of the final dialogue trope that normally takes place in similar action films. The quick shootout fits the clinical nature of the John Wick character, but then made me think, what happens now, as there's still 20 minutes of the film to go? These final 20 minutes play out with Viggo killing Marcus and then fighting John in the rain. A serviceable ending, but it felt like the director was solely focused on making it the rainiest fight ever seen on film. Than a dramatic, meaningful fight between Wick and Viggo that I think it should have been. Also, John letting Viggo stab him so he could take the knife out of his stomach and stab Viggo back seemed kind of a silly move for the character. John Wick had disarmed multiple knife and gun wielding enemies up to now, but then when facing Viggo, he has no other choice but to let himself get stabbed to overpower Viggo. Seems a bit strange, doesn't really fit. Ending, score 6 out of 10. Rating. Overall, my rating for John Wick is 75%. A strong debut to the franchise that cements its place as one of the better action revenge films that I've seen in a long time. It manages to walk the tightrope of being very action heavy, but varied enough in its scenery and fight sequences to be enjoyable for almost all of its runtime. On the runtime, John Wick clocks in at about 1.5 hours, minus the opening and end credits. And this is all it needs to be. Sometimes there is a want by directors and audiences for a film to be at least 2, and often almost 3 hours long. But the right choice was made for John Wick, to keep it at around 90 minutes, so it doesn't outstay its welcome. Film leaderboard. When we look at the film leaderboard, John Wick sits in 6th place, with the same score as Ant-Man and the Wasp and Doctor Strange 2. It will be interesting to see where Chapter 2 and 3 of the franchise rank on the leaderboard, as I will review them in the next few weeks before John Wick Chapter 4 comes out on the 24th of March. Genre comparison. Looking at the action-adventure genre, John Wick is doing rather well, at 4th place, in between Ant-Man 2 and 3. It scores higher than No Time to Die, which sits in 6th place. John Wick more than holds its own when competing against massive corporate heavyweights such as James Bond and the recent Marvel movies. My rating of 75% is almost identical to the IMDb user rating of 7.4 out of 10. The Rotten Tomatoes scores are a lot higher, with a critics rating of 86%. Don't forget that the Rotten Tomatoes score of 86% doesn't mean that critics on average rated the film 86%, it means that out of all the critics who watched and reviewed John Wick, 86% of them liked it. The audience score sits at 81% with over 50,000 reviews. Next week, we will be reviewing John Wick Chapter 2, followed by Chapter 3 the week after, and then Chapter 4 on the 24th of March on release day. Also this month, we're reviewing the Adam Driver dinosaur movie 65, Shazam 2, and Dungeons & Dragons Honor Amongst Thieves. On the TV front, we're covering Star Wars The Bad Batch Season 2 and The Mandalorian Season 3. So for more videos like this, please consider subscribing to Film Club. See you again.